Um, so I feel like overall MBAs, most of us do not interact with, the undergrads and the grad student at our college a lot, unfortunately. And I'll tell you the reason why, and I'll tell you the reason why you should. The reason for that is because a lot of us are, we have few years of experience. A lot of us are very career oriented. And also at SIE Business School, we have tons of events going on. Before I came to Said, people are telling me it's really, here it's like a triangle, right? There's academic excellence, there is a social life, and then there is where's the other one? Academic excellence, social life, and career. Yes, and you could only pick two of them, right? So this is really about how you're gonna, allocate your time. So I spent a little bit more time with my college, probably a little bit more time than the rest of my class. I was engaged. I was elected as the LGBT representative. So having that role really gave me the exposure on how the college works, right? So like Ron recommended before, if you're interested in playing sports, right? So you will be teaming up with people from your college, right? And your college will also be providing you with fundings. If you're interested in traveling to a conference, right? So your college could be providing that funding for your research outside of the SIE Business School. Also, there are when you're in your college, I strongly recommend you're running for join the student government, right? When you're in that position, you have a lot of opportunities to advocate for change in the college. Little things from flying the rainbow flag during the Pride months to really driving the college to a more sustainable operating model. You will have the opportunity to work with the college leadership as well as the student body on that. And the last thing I find is really funny is that our class is very diverse, right? So chances are you're not going to meet a lot of people from the UK. So when you're at the MBA program, so connecting with people in your college, that's your really a good opportunity for you to understand different culture in the UK.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brandon. Thank you. I know that everybody gets incredibly passionate about their particular college. Guys, I don't know if anybody else wants to make a case for their college being the best one in Oxford.
I'll say really quickly, Brandon did call out Kellogg College, which I think maybe has one of the lesser reputations. That being said, the cohort that we had in Kellogg this year was incredible, and we don't have the old buildings, but we do have some, I say, the best food out of all of the colleges. Some will say top 3, I will say number 1.
I also would like to add to, I think when I joined the program, nobody heard of Lineker College. But thankfully, this year we've been very kind of famous because our college received a huge endowment, huge in the nation. So now we got popular. And the second thing is we have a huge group of MBA students. That's why we will overtake the whole dining hall in one day, and formal dinners will be all seated with the MBA. So I think the food is great. The support from the college itself is very good. So I would advocate for my college.
Thanks, Rowan. Thank you very much. Actually, for the second questions, we'll come back to you if we can. Just before I say that, please keep your questions coming in. We've got a couple coming through, but for the last 20 minutes, it would be great if we could allocate time to your specific questions rather than ones that we might consider are useful and important to answer. So, Rowan, yes, if you don't mind, please keep your camera on. And I'm interested to know about MBATS. So for those of you that don't know, MBATS is a European-wide tournament attended by European business schools. during MBATs, you compete in a range of activities from chess to rugby to dancing, etc. Could you tell us a bit more about the MBATs? I believe you were involved, and how this experience helps you forge strong relationships with your peers, as well as students from other schools. I believe Oxford Said has now won the MBATs for 4 years running, so no pressure on the incoming class whatsoever.
Yes, thank you. I think, to be honest, MBAT is the highlight of MBA. To be honest, this is the only opportunity as an MBA you can participate in it. So we sometimes call it as Olympic Games of MBAs. First, and a second thing is, I think, as you also mentioned, it's really unique opportunity to forge a closer relationship with your classmates. As Brandon was saying as well too, you like, for example, this year's cohort, we have 355 people, and through extracurricular activity, through your core courses, you can meet people. However, the part, and maybe it will be 1/3 of the cohort you will meet. However, when I went to the MBAT, I think Sonoma Arjun will also back me up, and Brendan on this. I mean, I saw my classmate from another perspective, and that perspective kind of helped a lot, because at the same time, you need to be, we're all competitive. All MBAs, definitely competitive people, but when it comes to the sport, there is another level. When you even participate. So I was lucky enough to get to the rowing team, women's rowing team, because of I joined before my college boat house and everything. And my team had one girl from the Olympics competing with me together, and on the men's team we had 2 Olympics. So I mean, it's crazy how like you are against sitting there and competing against those people who've been like professional athletes and everything. And I mean, it puts you in the different dimension. But I think one of the most important kind of experience which I had and my classmate had, it was cheering. Our basketball team, when we were against to LBS or HEC in the finals, semifinals, oh my God, you just get that vibe, and it's crazy. I mean, you after that, after MBAT, I think you just kind of, I don't know, everything changed, and you feel more united, more kind of share these unique experiences which will not be in your life, never. So I think I will highly recommend. And to be honest, our cohort, especially organizing committee members, they did amazing, tremendous job, and they start planning in September 2021. So it took like 9 months prep work and everything. So yeah, there is the pressure, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
That's great. That's a really good insight into, I didn't know quite a lot of that stuff that you said, so it's a really good way for you to describe what the MBATs, really is. Thank you, Rowan. So Sonoma, if I can come back to you, please. You are, as a Rhombus scholar, you will be very aware that diversity is at the very core of the Oxford MBA program. From your perspective, what value does diversity of the student cohort in its broadest sense bring to the MBA experience, would you say?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we all know that diversity is really critical to a well-rounded experience. If you are in Oxford or applying to Oxford, you obviously already know that you're coming to one of the most international and diverse cohorts that there is in terms of business schools. But in terms of the value that I've been able to derive, I would say, before the MBA, I would have said that I had a global network. I've worked for multiple multinational corporations, and I've been in many teams that have been globally dispersed. But honestly, that was nothing compared to the global network that I now have. And I can genuinely say that I have not just colleagues, but also friends in every corner of the world. And there's something really unique and special about that. And just in the broader sense as well, the diversity of experience and thought that I've been fortunate enough to learn from this year has really exposed me to so many ideas and concepts and experiences that I had never predicted or anticipated the value that I would see from my cohort. So I guess a bit of advice would be to just, make sure, especially at the beginning, while you have time, because as the year goes on, time seems to just somehow get lost. But, make time for the coffee chats and the get to know yous, as with as many people as you possibly can, because it will pay off in dividends, and is 100% the most valuable takeaway that I'm walking away from this year is the network that I have.
That's great advice, Sonoma. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Arjun, if we can come back to you, please. I believe you've been successful in securing an internship in a strategy consulting firm. I know that this is a subject area that many people dialed in today would be interested in. It would be great if you could talk to us about the planning of your internship, in particular the process of how to make it happen, such as how to apply, interviews, etc. If you could, that would be great.
Sure. So I think the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody who's thinking of applying for any internship in any field is to start early. I think Sonoma and Ruan talked about this earlier, that the year flows by, like, before you know it, so I'll be joining my firm in less than 2 weeks now. So the MBA year is almost done for a lot of us now. So the year absolutely flies by. And so it's very, very important to start early. And by start early, I mean, in the first few weeks, connect with the SBS careers team. I think they're a bunch of absolutely brilliant folks. They're very well connected. They offer some brilliant advice. So connect with the careers team early. Start networking early. So what I had done for myself, before the program started, I'd made like a list of firms which I believe I would be a good fit for in the UK. I started, when I came into the program, I started networking with people at those firms. I started contacting alumni at those firms. I think the alumni community at Oxford is incredible. I think the people are very, very helpful if you reach out to them in a nice, polite manner, of course. So I think there are a bunch of absolutely brilliant people. So reach out to them early. Start developing your network early. Start, contacting those firms early on in the year, and by early I mean in September, October itself. So if you know what you need to do, so then start in the beginning of the program. And I think it's fine even if you don't know what you want to do. I think that's true for a lot of us. So take your time to figure out what you want to do in the first few months and in the first part of the MBA program. And by talking to your fellow classmates, I think what Sonoma talked about right now, it's incredibly diverse from very, very different backgrounds. So figure out what you want to do, and then connect with the careers team to help you execute that plan. So yeah, and with regard to preparation for interviews, I would say that don't take the holidays for granted. So in a one-year program, if you take the holidays for granted, that really does not help your case when you're actually giving those interviews. So in my case, like December, we had a good 20-25 day break. I spent those 20-25 days doing case prep, doing financial, practicing my financial modeling, doing practice cases with my fellow classmates. So don't take the holiday season for granted, because I think that interviews were in January first week onward. So you do not really have a lot of time before you're straight into it once the new year starts. So take your time to prepare, be well prepared, be well networked, and be well connected right from the beginning. I think that really helps. And last piece of advice I'd give is that the mistake which I made is that I ended up relying a lot on the opportunities which SBS sends through to the entire cohort. But equally important is using your own individual network and your own individual just cold calling people and cold calling firms to try and develop connections at different firms. Don't just rely on SBS. Use your own individual connections and own individual approach also to try and source an internship or a full-time role. So I think these things would be absolutely critical.
Thanks, Arjun. So starting early, you started in September. Wow, that's really early on in the program. And it also sounds like you worked really hard over the holidays as well to practice and hone your skills to put yourself in a good position. So thanks for sharing that. That's really good information. Thank you. We have got a few more questions coming through. Jessica Barford, you've sent 2, so you're a star. But please, other people, send questions, because this is an opportunity for you as incoming students to ask your questions. I'll just pop back, if I can, to Brandon for my last pre-prepared question. So, Brandon, in the second half of the MBA, students have the opportunity to start shaping their MBA through their elective choices. There are a wide range of electives. I think this year were something like 38, which students can choose from to help tailor the MBA to their specific needs. Could you give us insights into some of your most memorable electives, and any advice as to how to navigate what electives to choose, please?
Absolutely. So the first 6 months, you'll be taking the same essential business courses: finance, marketing, business analytics, and after that, this is what I really appreciate about the Oxford MBA, that you do have the liberty to customize your learning, right? So if, speaking for myself, I came from a business background, but I was not in finance. I was always interested in finance, even though that my post-MBA plan is not going to be in the finance industry. I decided to take some of the investment courses, and that really helped me to, have a perspective into how does the industry work, and then, it really helped me to better manage my finance as well. Currently, I'm also taking a business and politics class. I find it's incredibly valuable. It really goes beyond how the market business as a business, right? So we're taking, helping us to take into consideration, when we are the business leader, all of these non-market issues that will, affect your business, really oftentimes break or make your business. Incredibly important, and I encourage everybody to take that class. In terms of summer electives, some people choose to do internship, and some people choose to do summer electives. I think it's really depends on your personal circumstances. If you're in the same industry, you're trying to do like a triple jump, it might make sense for you to, really build your network and find that internship opportunity to help you to pivot that switch. But if very well where you're going to go after your MBA, if you have everything set up, a lot of us do at this point, I encourage you to explore the opportunities and learning opportunities provided by this world-class institution. We also have international electives. This year we did FinTech in London, and then I signed up for the Business in Africa class, where they really take us to Africa and learn how do they conduct business there. And incredible opportunity. We did not get to do the New York City track because of COVID restrictions. So in short, there are so many topics to choose from, and I encourage you to choose wisely and connect with us. If you have any questions, we've went through the programs. We know what add value to your learning. Feel free to connect us. We could help you with the insights.
That's a great offer. Thank you. Thanks very much. I think we've come to the end of our pre-prepared questions, but we are getting a few questions now coming through the Q&A. So thank you for that. I'll just start to pick a few of these questions at random and then see who amongst our panelists is happy to, or it can be more than one, obviously, because this is more random. So this is a question from Katerina. Katerina is saying, was there something positively, I suppose she means a positive thing rather than a bad thing, surprising about the SBS MBA? Some highlight that you did not expect before starting the program? That's a good question, Katerina. Thank you. Does anybody feel as if they want to stick their hand in the air for that one?
Yes, can I answer that question? I think, to be honest, Oxford itself provides a unique opportunities. Like the city, it's very student-oriented and everything. However, the great value, surprising value, which Said Business Schools, like MBA has, it's one of the electives which called Leadership in Humanities, which is happening now in this block. And the thing is, Said Business School itself is a part of large community of Oxford University. And one of the key great things which business school is doing, it's how business school with those business related experience can help or bring and be emerged and embraced with the culture of the science research, which is and academy, which is happening in Oxford University. So this course is the elective itself. It's pretty amazing. So like for 2 weeks, we had already 4 sessions. Each class will start from each on different location. You will not be sitting and bored in the classroom. You will go and explore the city. But the thing is, for example, this week we had a session on architecture. So how the leadership can be seen through the architecture perspective. And now after that class, all I see when I just walk around the university, it's those small architectural pieces, which is art as well too. It's implemented and integrated in the city life. And I think it's also about the history. So another session which we had about the history of how the leadership or those leaders who we are seeing now navigate through the history perspective from that legacy which they had, how they adjusted their leadership style and everything. So I think that was very surprising and big, interesting experience for me, and I'm grateful for the all MBA admin staff as well as our MBA, the program director Matthew Conosby, who is bringing with the faculty that class. I think we're trying to bring that class to be as part of a whole year course, not the elective for 1 month. So I hope that the incoming next year and future cohort will enjoy this class very much.
Thank you, Rowan. That's great. Thank you. Does anybody else on the panel have anything to add? Something surprising about the MBA that you didn't necessarily expect before you started the program? No other big surprises, obviously. Okay, this is a more specific question. Jessica, you put 2 questions, so I'd certainly like to answer at least one of yours, if that's possible. You're asking, is it possible to participate in the finance lab and the seed fund from a time perspective? My knowledge, and really you guys need to answer that. Does anybody here, have you undertaken both the finance lab and the seed fund? Is that a challenge?
If you don't mind, I didn't do a seed fund, but one of my classmates did, but they didn't choose to do a finance lab. I think it's very challenging in terms of time commitment. So I would suggest to do it separately. I mean, choose one. And for the finance lab, it's only, as Arjun mentioned, goes through the Michaelmas term. And for the seed fund, I think they finishing now, wrapping up now. So the seed fund itself goes whole year. Because one of the classmates I talked to, I think day before yesterday, they were actually presenting the work they've done and pitching the projects and presenting the projects which they have identified throughout the year. So I think from the time commitment wise, I would suggest to either choose seed fund or the finance lab. It also depends on the background of the person. So for example, for me, I don't need to do seed fund because I'm coming from the VC perspective. So for me, I chose to do a finance lab for this purpose. But it depends on each case, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Rowan, for putting your hand up with that question. Thank you. I just wanted to go and talk about one other question here. Arjun spoke earlier about the finance lab, but I wanted to briefly touch on another of our excellent co-curricular programs, the Creative Destruction Lab, or the CDL. So the CDL is a non-profit organization that delivers an objectives-based program for massively scalable seed stage science and technology-based companies. MBA candidates can apply to be part of the CDL during their MBA. Sonoma, I know that you undertook the CDL program. Could you please tell the audience a little bit more about your experience working as part of CDL and how you feel this will help support your career aims. Apologies for the long question, but I'm trying to set the scene so that everybody knows what the CDL is about.
Yeah, no problem. So for me, the CDL was 100% worth it. I think I will caveat that with saying that I know classmates across my cohort had very different experiences with the CDL. So it is very case by case specific with kind of how you get placed. So in terms of the overall program, it kicks off in Michaelmas term and you put forth the stream that you want to be a part of. So this year there was AI, health, fintech, and climate. So I went for fintech as I'm trying to move into entrepreneurship in VC. I thought it would be helpful to kind of get some real world experience with a really early stage startup and just kind of see the inner workings. So I got in January, you get paired with your company. And basically from January to, we just wrapped up really like a week or two ago. So until now, you go through kind of various stages where you have mentors who are entrepreneurial experts, maybe subject matter experts, and they are supporting the founders and the ventures. And through each session, some ventures do get dropped. And so I was fortunate enough that my venture kind of made it all the way through to the very end. So I got to support them with two different projects. One was creating an investment pitch deck, and the other one was sourcing strategic partnerships. And so I really lucked out with a venture that was easy to work with. You know, we were able to collaboratively set the stage early. I also had a partner in my cohort that I was doing the CDL with. And so the work was kind of split between her and I. And yeah, just I would say, as long as you kind of work with your venture very closely to kind of set the boundaries, set the bandwidth that you'll be working on this, because it can very easily scope creep and take up more time, I think, than you intend it to, because, you know, it is an early stage startup. They have so much to do and they're going to be asking so much of you. So just making sure that you kind of protect your time. But overall, it was a really, really great experience for me. And it was really cool to see them graduate at the end and see them kind of go on to use some value add that I had created for them. So I would highly recommend the CDL, but just make sure that, you know, if you end up deciding to do it, that you're really vocal with your venture about what you want out of it, and you kind of, you know, stand your ground on where your boundaries lie.
Great. Thanks, Sonoma. Thank you. There's another question here from Anderson. Anderson is asking, is there anything you wish you did in the summer prior to joining the MBA on the technical skills side, I suppose, in terms of prep leading up to the MBA? Arjun or Brandon, could you give a perspective on that maybe?
Yeah, I could try to take a step at that. So if you're interested in consulting, it's really important that you start preparing before you arrive at Oxford. And it's just, if you don't have prior consulting experience, it just takes time to build up the skills. And second, I would highly encourage you to look at the career opportunities. It is the one-year MBA program, which means you may not fit in the typical hiring structure of you know, the large companies. I'm speaking from a US perspective. So quite a few of us, you know, started looking for a job and started and, you know, doing interviews just a month after we arrived at Oxford. So it's very critical that you understand where you want to go. That does not mean, you know, when you come to Oxford, you cannot have a change of heart, right? Because things happen here. People you meet here and bring new perspective. That brings, you know, new inspiration as well. But, you know, be prepared. Both, you know, hard technical skills and, you know, looking at the employers, look at their hiring structure, the timeline.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Arjun, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just a small thing in addition to what Brandon said is that if you're looking to transition your career into something which you haven't done previously, I'd strongly suggest, which a few of my classmates did and it really benefited them, is to doing like a pre-MBA internship if you can. So I know a lot of people who were working in consulting and wanting to get into banking. So they did like a internship, because it's still June. You still have 3 months till the MBA starts. So you could potentially think of interning for 3 months, like a pre-MBA internship that really helps you and helps you beef up your resume also, and just gives you a flavor of what the industry is like. So I'd suggest make the most of these months, not just upskilling technically like what Brandon said, but also trying to figure out some professionally, if you can intern somewhere to just help you make that transition a bit easier.
Okay, thank you, Arshan. Thank you. This is a question a little bit related to colleges, but slightly different. And this, you may not have direct experience on this, but you may know people who have done this. So the person isn't giving their name, but any opinions on living in private accommodation versus graduate accommodation like Castle Mills? You may not have done this, but you may know people who have. What are your opinions and what have you heard about private accommodation versus college life?
So I'm happy to take a stab at that. So I myself am a part of college accommodation. So I live on campus at St. Hugh's College. So I think an advantage of living on campus is that you get more of a community feeling. Like, I mean, you interact with a lot of people who are not just MBAs, and that just enhances the experience. Like just yesterday, I was having a few drinks with a few DPhil students. And I would not get that opportunity if I was living in private accommodation. So that definitely enhances the experience. But yeah, I mean, I know a few people who live in private accommodation. The space is much larger. You're more comfortable. So college accommodation, like, I know it's blurred out, but the room is pretty small. So yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons just about what you want to prioritize. Maybe Sonoma can add something. So yeah.
Happy to give the opposite perspective of that, because I was offered accommodation in Castle Mill and I ended up not taking it to go for private accom. And everything Arjun just said is, completely correct. I think there's definitely kind of that community aspect that I'm probably missing out on a little bit from being in my private accom. That being said, I think the student accommodation options really vary in cost as well. So it depends on your specific situation. But for me, it was a really, really marginal difference between living in Castle Mill and living in a private apartment that I found with one of my cohort members as well. And so for me, it was worth it. That it was actually like £50 per month to have, a full apartment with a living room. I like to cook a lot. So having like a kitchen just to her and I, and my apartment is also right by school. So having something that's, a 2-minute walk to SBS was extremely convenient. So I would say it depends on a lot of those factors. Of course, if you have kids or pets or anything like that, I think it's a little bit more convenient and easy to be in private accommodation. But yeah, I mean, in general, yeah, I think Arjun's probably correct as well in terms of the community feel.
If I may add on to that, so different colleges, they have different accommodations and they could look very different. So if you want to make that big decision, I would encourage you to connect with people who are, a member of your college. I know if you're, for example, if you're living at Keble, the room is like a hotel room. It's really modern and nice. I live, as you could see, in the attic. So I live on campus as well. So, talk to people and find out. That's the only way to find out.
Thanks all. We've got some different perspectives, different sides of college versus private accommodation there, which is great. That's what we're looking to achieve here. So thank you for that. We're coming towards the end of our session today. We've got about 10 minutes left, but there's a couple of questions here that I thought we could just ask a variety of the panel, really. And this is a really short and sharp, snappy question. What, in your opinion, is the toughest part of the MBA program?
I can start off with that. Having to choose, I think, so there is that constant conflict as to there are always multiple options in a 1-year program, and you always have to give up something. So making that trade-off and deciding what you want to give up, I think that's the toughest decision, which all of us, I think I can speak for everybody here, I think all of us are still struggling with that being able to make that trade-off. I think that's definitely, one of the toughest things that I had to do, whether you want to sacrifice a social life for applying for jobs, whether you want to just enjoy your college life and not so much focus on not focus as much on academics. So there's that constant trade-off, and you need to decide what's more important to you. I think that's absolutely critical there.
Happy to just offer one more thing. I think 100% what Arjun just said. The FOMO is real, no matter what you're talking about, whether it's something social, a speaker, networking event that you're missing out on, an elective that you didn't get to take but you wanted to. There will always be things that you want to do that you physically cannot. And so in conjunction with that, I would say one of the hardest things is just making sure that you're taking time for yourself to kind of create space for your mental health. Personally, for me, coming from California, the weather this winter was a bit tough. And so just making sure that you're kind of, giving yourself that space to, yes, do all of the things. We're all MBAs, we're all overachievers, and you're going to be constantly being pulled from thing to thing, but just making sure that you have time to kind of breathe and ground yourself through the MBA as well, because it is a chaotic year.
Well, it is incredibly fast-paced, and I agree with both of Sonoma and Ajin. It's having to balance between something I'm extremely interested in and something I'm also extremely interested in. That's a very tough choice. When it comes to the program, there's also a lot of self-learning. If you're used to like the lecturing system, so it might be adjustment for you as well. I would say for like an hour you spend in class, you probably will spend the equal amount of time, if not more, on the readings, which are interesting, by the way.
Yeah. Good. Thank you all for that. I think probably a final question, although depending on the length of your answers, I may slip another one in. A question about the network that you've gained really over the last 9 months, moving towards 12 months by the end of the program. So a question, what value do you believe the network that you've gained during your time at Oxford will bring to you in your future career? And how do you expect that you might tap into it?
I think I would like to take this question. I think the most important thing is, I remember one advice from the launch week when we started our program, that utilize your network and especially your classmates with whom you are taking this class. And I think that was, to be honest, true, because you can learn so much from such a diverse cohort, which we have 355 students from 71 nationalities. I don't know any other MBA courses where you can have this kind of huge exposure to different nationalities, different sector backgrounds. Even as the student panels, each of us coming from different backgrounds with own diverse thoughts, with own diverse opinion. And I think my greatest learning was through my network of my classmates, alumni, faculty. We have amazing faculty, and all our alumni network, huge alumni network. I do highly encourage and would like to offer an advice. Just go out there and talk to your people, because this is the huge support which you have. And I think in the future itself, now I know that I have 355 classmates, and wherever I will go, no matter where in the world I go, I will find out my classmate from my cohort, and I can reach out, and even maybe in the future we will be a business partner. So if I'm like expanding my business towards exploring new markets, new geographical markets, I know to whom I need to call.
Thank you, Rowan. That's a really good answer. Thank you. Anybody else? How do you think you might use your network, use in the broadest sense of the word, or make best use of going forward?
I can just give something really quickly. I kind of already alluded to the fact that I think the network is the most valuable thing I'm gaining from this year. And all of the connections I think that have been most valuable to me, and I think will continue to be, they just happen very serendipitously. So I would say just make those genuine connections with people, and rather than kind of seeking out what you can get from those connections or from those people, just try to learn from people and offer your wisdom and your learnings back. And I think establishing those kind of relationships are going to be kind of the most fruitful into the future.
Thanks, Sonoma. Arjun?
Yeah, and just adding to that, I'd say just get out of your comfort zone. I think it's very easy to just stick to people who you're comfortable with, who you have a shared background with. I think that's human nature, but I think what Ruan mentioned earlier, we're such a diverse group of people. There's so much to learn just from each one of amongst our cohort only. So get out of your comfort zone, interact with people of different nationalities, interact with people of different backgrounds. the different age groups, different family backgrounds. You get to learn so much just by interacting with each other, I think, and forge meaningful relationships, because I think what will last after the MBA program. So I think that's absolutely critical to make the most of this 1 year.
Thanks, Arjun. Brandon, some last words of advice?
Yeah, if I may just add on to that, without sounding too shallow, having that Oxford name on your resume really opens opportunities for a bigger network, right? So we went to an LGBT business networking event. We met students from LBS, from Cambridge, which you will soon learn to not call Cambridge, but the other place. And also, industry leaders as well. I was able to learn, things that I otherwise would not have the opportunity, right? So yes, do take advantage of your LBA, your MBA network, but also leverage that, Oxford reputation and build a wider network. And I think you'll benefit from that.
Some really wise words, guys. I think get out of your comfort zone. I think that's a really tough call to action, and some good words from Arjun particularly there. So thank you. So I think really we've come to the end of our webinar today, and indeed our whole experience event this week. I know you'll join me in wanting to thank Rowan, Sonoma, Arjun and Brandon today for the really useful insight into their MBA experience. And on behalf of the wider MBA recruitment team, I'd also like to thank you all for your engagement today, for being part of the webinar and other events that you may have joined this week. So I really hope you've enjoyed the session, and I wish everybody an enjoyable rest of the day and a great weekend ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.